What's up, Warriors fans, and welcome back to Warriors Latest. As always, I am your host, Max Arizin. A big thanks to all you guys for liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell, as I do post new Warriors videos daily, and it does help the channel continue to grow as the season moves along. And also a huge thank you to the sponsor for today's video, Underdog. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, Underdog is a skills-based app where you can choose your favorite player to go either higher or lower in different stats like points, rebounds, assists, steals, and more. And if you get them right, you can win up to $5,000 your cash. Now, for me personally, I've been doing pretty well on Underdog, specifically on a hot streak by going lower on a lot of different statistical categories. And that's all based off of the research and just looking at the different matchups that each player has. And I've had a lot of fun doing it. So do me a favor and scan the QR code right here and use promo code BasketballFan to take advantage of a great deal for $75 in bonus entries on your first $5 entry. Now, with that said, the Warriors had a great game against the Hornets this weekend. And you know what? This is exactly what this team needed, and I am just so excited now because it really feels like the team has turned the corner. And when the team has full control from start to finish, and by that I mean they did not even let the Hornets have a lead at any point in the game. That's just a very good sign. Now, looking at the rest of it, the Warriors played like the Warriors should compared to the last few games before the homestand. They're hitting over 40% of their threes. They're limiting their turnovers. And you know what? They're taking full advantage of these winnable games to continue with the momentum, especially as they go into the final stretch of this homestand. Now, in the final stretch, they have the Heat and the Raptors before they go on the road against the Mavericks. So this Hornets game was a big win. Now, am I happy that the Warriors didn't end the series, or excuse me, didn't end the game with acquiring LaMelo Ball? Yeah, I'm a little bummed about that. But with how everybody else is playing, I'm with it. I'm with it because you know what? Games like these are games to really show and prove for the rest of the bench, where they can show what they've got, show that they can be an asset when called upon, and really just play next man up should things go bad with the likes of, say Steph isn't hitting, or Jimmy just isn't working right now, or Draymond is just injured, or things like that. Now, don't get me wrong, I would like to see Pat Spencer play a bit more, but we're still waiting for him to get on a get on a full-time contract so he doesn't use up all of his days on his two-way deal. That being said, 4 minutes, not enough, but I like that he got 2 rebounds in those 4 minutes. And also looking at it, I liked how D'Anthony Melton, again, is proving me wrong and making me eat crow with 24 points, going 50% from the field, 8 for 16. Are you kidding me? This is a guy who wants to be here and knows how to play, because I am literally shocked at how well he is doing. And even though Steph really wasn't getting it done, only going for 14 points in 30 minutes, D'Anthony was able to step up, and I think that is very important. Now, was I a fan of Quentin Post getting 19 minutes? Yes. Al Horford got another 19, but I still don't like the fact that they're playing Quentin Post such limited minutes. They got to start giving him more minutes if they're not going to trade for a center until the deadline, because moving forward, they're going to play teams that really do have a lot of big men and are going to give the Warriors problems in the post, pun intended. But I do like how, all right, Post is starting to grab rebounds. He's starting to lead the team with rebounds, and he's slowly starting to get better. But again, he still needs time to develop, and he's not ready to be the full-time center. But I think to be the full-time center, you got to get more minutes and show up in those minutes. Looking at it, he only had 19 minutes, and yes, he grabbed 7 rebounds, but I think grabbing those 7 rebounds had something to do with Jimmy not playing against the Hornets. Now, Jimmy's reasons for not playing on Saturday were personal reasons, so I'm not going to pry into that too much. I understand how that goes. But I guess when it really matters, we do need Jimmy to show up, and he has been showing up in recent games, as he showed up against the Knicks to lead that comeback and showed up against the Blazers to help out in that game too, to win their first game against them the entire season. I still think it's been dating back to the preseason where they haven't won a single game until last week against the Blazers. So I am definitely happy about that. And you know what? They were able to limit the fact that they were able to force over, or I believe it was 17 turnovers total against the Hornets. I honestly am a big fan of that because, you know what? The Warriors have had their problems, and their biggest problem is their turnover rate. At one point, it was over 17 a game, and now they only limit it to 12. Look, they're steps in the right direction. And on top of that, they're finally hitting from downtown on a consistent basis. I believe their last 3 games were over 40% from downtown, where the games before that, they were hitting maybe, like in the 30s to the early 20% from 3. And yes, the Warriors are a team that will live and die by the 3-point shot, but at least they're starting to hit. They're gaining that consistency and that momentum. And once they maintain that momentum and consistency, they're going to be a very tough team to beat. And even better, in this homestand, they went from 3.5 to 4 back of the 6th seed to now only 2 back of the 6th seed and out of the play-in game. So that's a big step up. Their only issues are that they still have to contend with the Suns, and the Suns have also been on an equally great hot streak. So we'll see how that plays out, but moving forward, I do see good things in the Warriors' future. But speaking of the Warriors' future, one guy whose future is still uncertain is Jonathan Kuminga. Now, I believe his agent came out and said the Warriors and Kuminga has agreed that they're going to hold him out of games until the trade deadline. And if he isn't traded by the deadline, they're going to start playing him again. But I doubt that they're going to keep him past the deadline. At this point, this situation is completely untenable, and they have to trade him for at least something. Worst case scenario, they trade him for Nikolai Vucevic, and the Warriors finally have their big man that can grab rebounds like a crazy person. And that's exactly what they need, because even though they don't lose the rebounding battles that much, after that discrepancy between the lead rebounder for the Warriors and the lead rebounder for the Knicks during that Warriors-Knicks game, where I believe Jimmy Butler had 8, while Karl Anthony Towns had 20, it's obvious something's got to change there. Because, you know what, they need a guy who can reliably get the team second chance points, and when they're getting their second chance opportunities, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with. And you know what? That's something I would definitely want to see from the Warriors. Now, should they get a bigger threat in the post, like a Giannis Antetokounmpo, who I believe is the actual reason that a Kuminga trade hasn't happened immediately, because teams are still very unsure of him staying with the Bucks or not. I believe getting a guy like that will increase the rebounding efficiency and, you know what, provide Steph and the rest of the Warriors amazing second chance opportunities when it comes to getting a second 3 off an offensive rebound, getting a quick defensive rebound that could turn into a fast break, and just allowing good spacing and good movement to happen on the offensive end. So I like where this is going. I'm not a fan of them holding back Kuminga, but I still think people know what kind of asset he is. He is a young player who's a slashing wing. He has a decent mid-range. He can't really shoot from 3, so that's his main issue with his fit in the Warriors. And I know we've heard the news how everybody but Joe Lacob wanted to draft Franz Wagner, and well, you know what? Hindsight is 20/20, so we got to move on from that. But he's still on a team option expiring deal. So if a team says, oh, he's not a great fit, they get $22.5 million off their books. And after the Trae Young trade, we saw how valuable expiring contracts are, because a lot of teams want to balance their books instead of getting draft picks. So there's value there. There's value in the guys that can be attached in a type of trade with Kuminga, say Buddy Hield or Moses Moody, to give other players like Will Richard, Pat Spencer more minutes. So, you know what? I think that even though I don't like Kuminga playing. Holding him out to get the best deal and making sure that he's healthy with his new team is going to be essential on the trade market because teams know what they're getting out of Kuminga, and they're either going to take it or leave it, or just take the expiring deal and then reset during the summer. Now, fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite player will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, or more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. Today on Underdog, I'm looking at the Heat Warriors game and selecting Steph Curry to go higher in points, and Bam Adebayo to go higher in rebounds. Download the app today and use promo code BasketballFan to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BasketballFan. Underdog. Make picks, win money.
Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 helpline at 1-877-8 or text from 467-369.
Now with the Heat, this is going to be a very interesting game today because the Heat, because, how do I put this? Because of how good the Heat are, not in terms of their record, but in terms of how their culture has affected their play. And how they, even though they might not have the best record, they could still give you the business any given Sunday, or in this point, any given Monday. Because you can't really expect to know what the Heat are going to do. Yes, Jimmy was a part of 2 championship runs with the Heat and was the nucleus of that championship run, both in 2020 and 2023. But even without Jimmy, the Heat are a force to be reckoned with. I still remember 10 years ago when the Warriors first got KD and were just blowing teams out left and right. The Heat were one of the few teams to give that Dubs team the business from start to finish. And they make me nervous because, look, I want the Warriors to go 7-1 through this entire homestand and continue the momentum. But the Heat are those teams, they love to spoil things. And when you're a team that loves to spoil things, it's so unnerving because it's not only the Heat that the Warriors have to worry about tonight, it's also the Raptors that they have to worry about for their final game of the homestand. And if they don't beat the Heat tonight, I'm a little worried about how they will be able to beat the Raptors in their next game, because a loss versus the Heat, in my opinion, will just completely shake the momentum, because they, as I said, they are a team that loves to spoil things. And to be fair, they do have a lot of physical players, not only with Bam Adebayo, but with Kel'el Ware as well. Now, yes, Kel'el has been a little shaky as of late. I believe he was benched for the entire fourth quarter of his last game, or a portion of the fourth quarter. But he's still a big man who can get physical with Quentin Post, who can get physical with the likes of Al Horford, and can just overpower them to grab an offensive or a defensive rebound. So I'm worried about that. And on top of that, you have a guy in Bam Adebayo who can get physical with Draymond, who can be fast enough to guard Al Horford at the 3-point line, who can just push around Quentin Post if he's playing in the small ball center. And it makes me nervous because things could get out of hand very quickly if the Warriors don't just take control of the game from a very early point. Now, looking at it, I do expect the Warriors to win, but then again, that's just the Warriors fan in me. I still think they're going to have their work cut out for them because of how good this Heat team is. Now, the Heat, they're only 2 games over 500 at 22-20. And granted, that is a worse record than the Warriors, but it's still something. I'm looking at the matchup predictor, and they still only have the Warriors at a 64.3% chance of winning on their own floor. So that does say a lot for how good this Heat team is. And on top of that, look, Norman Powell in his expiring contract year has been killing it with 23 a game against pretty much every single team. So I am a little worried. And look at this. 48% shooting from the field. So he's doing it both from 3 and from other points of the court. I want to see his 3-point percentage real quick, and I believe he's in his last 10 games, he's been hitting from 3 for almost 45%. I mean, that's Seth Curry levels when he was at his peak last year versus the Hornets. And it's a little unnerving. But, I mean, he's playing big minutes, and he's going to be a problem for the Warriors. But luckily, should Jimmy be back, they will give him the business. So I'm not as worried about it as I usually am. And I think the Warriors will also have the benefit of Davion Mitchell being out. Now, should Draymond Green not play today? I'm a little worried about that, but I think they'll be able to survive as they've been able to make the proper adjustments when he's been out before and missed games, whether it be an ejection or that whole third quarter fiasco a couple weeks ago. They're always able to bounce back, and they'll find ways to win. But to really complete this homestand, the Warriors need to beat the Heat. Now, as I said before, bottom line is a 7-1 homestand would solidify the Warriors' turnaround. The momentum from a 7-1 homestand will bring them into Dallas with just that killer instinct that they've been really lacking all season. And if they go into Dallas with that killer instinct, they may blow out Dallas in their home court. Now, looking at the last game they played versus the Mavericks, they did take care of business on Christmas Day. It was a contest, but the Warriors had complete control, and I did like that. So I fully expect them to have control should they close out this homestand. And if they close out this homestand 7-1, I would not be surprised if they start continuing to move up the standings and finally get out of the play-in and into one of the top 6 seeds, going from, say, 6th to 5th to maybe even 4th by the end of February. Now, granted, that is a long way away, but they're still making their moves. And as long as they continue to make their moves, they are going to be a championship contender and a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs. Granted, there are going to need to be some trades made in order to fill some voids in the center position, maybe give them a backup point guard, and a few other things that they really do need. But I have full confidence in this team to make those moves and get the better end of any deal that they decide to make. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, a big thanks to all you guys for liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell. And a big thanks to Underdog for sponsoring today's video. So guys, do me a favor, don't forget to scan the QR code right here and take advantage of a great deal. And as always, go Dubs.